Hi everyone, Michelle Fixit here. Apologies for the bad lighting. So I am out on a crazy cat adventure, and I'm going to answer questions that no one has asked about what it's like going from a 100% all-American gas guzzling and then gas sipping kind of driver to a 100% electric car. So this is an honest review against my wants and wishes. I had an electric car thrust upon me. I am currently sitting in an unknown year of a Hyundai or Hyundai, whatever way you say it, because people say it all different ways, Ioniq 5. So I'm going to give you the pros and cons and everything else because I've got a little bit of time to kill before we head out to the airport. There were a couple of videos that were made beforehand, and man, oh man, has it been an experience. Also, Michelle Fixit. Hi, nice to meet you if you don't know me. So this is a very anxiety-ridden car. I'm going to start with that. I am not going to get out of the car because I am close enough to the airport, but, you know, in a decent location, but it's just, I'm going to stay in the car for this review, this honest review. So, starting off, the first thing that I am not accustomed to is just having this little key fob thing. And yeah, it doesn't actually tell me what year it is. And it's also blue, and I'm in the state of California. And so essentially, when you start off with this car, the rental place just had assigned parking spaces, so the keys were already in it, and I saw it and I was like, I don't want that car. I was like, I just don't want it. And I didn't know if it was going to be 100% electric or not. I just didn't. Even if it was a hybrid, I would have been grumpy about it because I drive older vehicles because I really like older vehicles. I like to DIY work on my vehicles. Currently there are like 7 of them. So my daily drivers are a Dodge Ram 4x4 with a 5.7 Hemi. We have 2 Trailblazers. So we have an 03 Trailblazer and 06 Trailblazer. Both of those Trailblazers are the EXTs. They have the inline 6, the 4.2 Vortec, and I liked mine so much that we got another one for my husband, Cat. We have our newest vehicle is a 2012 Chrysler 200 hardtop convertible, signature edition. It's fancy. 1963 Jeep J300 manual transmission i6, 4-wheel drive, of course. No power brakes, no power steering. And 1980 CJ7 V8 304. Dual exhaust 4x4, of course, Jeep, CJ7 Jeep, and then my husband, Cat, has an older manual transmission V6 Toyota Tundra. So those are the vehicles that I am accustomed to, and there's also a Harley in the bunch, but I haven't had anything to do with that. So going from that small fleet of vehicles, there's 7 of them, because I'm very much a car person, to this vehicle has been admittedly a nightmare from the beginning. But I've grown accustomed to some of the quirks of the vehicle, and I wanted to share that experience with you guys. So when you get the key, like if you didn't have the key, this is one of the things that I've learned that I kind of do like. When you get the key for the vehicle, if you had the vehicle locked and then you walk up to it, as soon as you get close to the vehicle, it's like, Mommy, you're back. And so all of these very obnoxious little handles, because they've redesigned the handles, I know the Tesla Cat cars do it too because I've seen that, where instead of having like a pull up or a pull out, it's a little stick and it just kicks over to the side, and so they're like little wings. So that feature I do like. I don't like the obnoxiousness of the door handles. I understand for aesthetics, sounds cool, looks cool. I do like that, you know, and if you guys weren't aware, there is, on all of these key fobs, there is an actual key in here. So if you were to push the side of it, then you would still be able to manually open the door. So I like manual mechanics. So huge fan of that. Maybe if I, get closer, I'll do another video on certain things. So I do like that it automatically opens up as soon as it senses that you are available to the car. It is a push button start, of course. So when you get into it to turn it on, like it's on right now, so I'm going to turn it off. So if you turn it off, you just push the button. You have to have your foot on the brake. So foot on the brake. Yes, I'm a barefoot driver. So foot on the brake, push the button. They have gotten rid of the traditional shifter. Like my Ram has it where I can pull here. The Trailblazers have it where, I have the shifter in the center. The car has that. And manual transmissions are all on the floor. So if you want to put it into drive, if you click over just a little bit, it puts it in neutral and it locks you in. If you click over again, then it puts you into drive. To go in reverse, it's the same thing, but you can press and hold it or do like a hard turn and it puts you into reverse. And of course it does have the backup camera and everything. To put it into park, you have to actually push this button. Now, as someone that is used to regular vehicles, this little guy right here was kind of throwing me for a loop initially, because I'm like, okay, where's the parking brake? And as it turns out, there's no parking brake. So every time that you put it into park, it has that. So I, as of current time, don't know if it actually does have an emergency brake as well. I have not been able to find a pedal on the floor for emergency brake, because some of our vehicles have that. We don't have, one to pull. So I don't know with that feature what happens with that. So I'll just give you that. But the thing that's kind of like, let's put it back into reverse. I know I never promise great quality videos, just useful ones. So if you go into reverse, I do like the backup camera stuff, and I've lost a nail during this trip. The thing that's kind of, it has like a yellow and a blue. There we go. I can get it to do it. So even before you're actually in motion, it does have the yellow, the red, the blue. And so essentially when you're going to park, if you line all these guys up with your steering wheel, then, you have ease of parking. The thing that is most obnoxious about this car, and actually will help breed anxiety, is that all these little guys, these little sensors. So if I park, if I get close to anything, whether it's a bush or a curb or anything, just doing your normal drive-in parking, it illuminates and it gets grumpy and it starts beeping at you, and it's like beep, 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 and then it's like yellow and red and beep, 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 beep. So it really, it will make you feel like a cuckoo bird, because you're like, car, seriously, calm down. It's a bush. It's a weed. It's not going to attack you. Calm down. We can breathe. Let's take a calm down moment. So that piece of it's been very frustrating. Additionally, one of the things, and I don't know if it's going to do it because of where we're kicked over at, is that there is a light that illuminates right here, and it's a red triangle with an exclamation point. So every time when I'm driving, let me put it back in park. Every time that I'm driving this car, if somebody drives past me, seeing that it's triangle red, which normally is bad, stop, all of that good stuff. Other cars I've seen on the road have that feature as well. None of our vehicles, I call it a yappy feature. None of our vehicles do it, but I think that making it a red triangle with an exclamation point is just an anxiety building experience that they've put into this car. The yellow ones with the illumination, I'm okay with that. Prior to this, the most yappy car that I'd ever had to drive was, it beeped, it did this, it did that. But with that one, it was a yellow light, And it also would get grumpy if it's thought that you were like a little bit over to one side. So you had to drive perfectly in the middle of the lane. And because it had sensors, I guess, with like the dashes in the road, or the broken lines whenever you're just in normal highway traffic, and then with the solid lines, like if you were just driving next to a shoulder. So that was really annoying, and I basically refused to drive that vehicle because it was very obnoxious. So that feature, it, with that car and then with this car, the red is worse than the yellow. It doesn't beep while it's doing it. It just beeps whenever you're trying to park, or, if you're backing up. And I just feel like they should have a setting where you don't have to manually go through and change all the settings for the vehicle. But it's like during, at the beginning of your driving experience, it's like, which mode of driving do you want to be in? Because if you are a driver, if you've been a driver for a long amount of time and you're not used to all these features, it's like basic car mode. So you just utilitarian driving experience, none of the extra beeps, none of the extra this, none of the extra that. And then you have like a middle driving where maybe you've got a few years under your belt. And so like having it let you know when there's a car beside you on the right or the left, because you're not the skilled driver. That a skilled driver will consistently and constantly be going from, okay, look over here, I've got this on my left, look in the rear view, I've got this behind me, look in the right, I've got this going on to the side of me, and of course looking forward. And so that way I am aware of all of my surroundings at all times. An intermediate driver would be building on that skill, would be building on the knowledge, if given the proper, driving courses and driving knowledge, would be building on that skill. So maybe not thinking about it as often. And a beginning driver would really not be aware of that. So then all of these features would be better for an intermediate to a beginning driver. But honestly, with the beginning, like, it's anxiety, right? It's just, it's filling the driving experience with anxiety, because as a skilled driver that had their license since they were 14, this has made my driving experience super not fun. And I have felt married to chargers the whole entire time. And that's been very frustrating. Luckily, our hotel is advanced enough to have free charging on site. The big problem that I found with that is that they had like 4 or 6 Tesla chargers, but they only had one for this particular car, which is like the Circles. And the Circles, there was a Jeep Wrangler hybrid that was borrowing it, and this was for a 1 parking space thing, and it was in a handicap space. So I didn't know what to do with that. Had asked the front desk. Turned out that that's just how like they zoned it, and so we all had to feel like we were breaking the law in order to charge our vehicle, which was really frustrating. And then they only had 1 adapter at the hotel, which is still very considerate, because again, they don't have to do any of these things, they're all complimentary. But the adapter was always loaned out, and is what we were told. I don't believe that to be factually accurate, because the only vehicles that I saw during my stay were Teslas, charging on Teslas. I never saw anything besides a Tesla charging at a Tesla charger. So the hybrid Jeep Wrangler I got to meet him. And then there was a couple that had a Grand Wagoneer hybrid, and both of those people had to ask and kind of like demand those as their rental vehicles, because they wanted to get used to the technology. The Jeep Wrangler guy was used to a Chevy Volt, I think. And then the couple, they had gas vehicles primarily, but when they traveled, they always asked for the hybrids. So they both picked my brain, or all 3 of them picked my brain about my experience with a 100% electric vehicle, especially being the kind of person that I am, because out the gate, I'm like, look, like my daily driver's a Ram with a V8, and I'm like, I'm so grumpy about this experience. So we got to, talk and stuff, because we had to also learn about like what was appropriate for, you know, charging etiquette and things like that. And so it's been an experience. So I went through the basic features of the vehicle. Video is just like super on the fly. The aesthetics of the vehicle I'm okay with. My daughter really likes the fact that the car is blue because that's her favorite color. So, you know, it has this illumination. It has, you know, this is blue. The features for, I think some of this has been over designed to a point where it's very annoying. So, it's very distracting. I know that some people would want to see this all the time, but it's very distracting to me to have it where this is consistently moving around. So that's a big distraction because it is a very large screen. And then this, even though I like seeing the mechanics of what's going on, when I'm using the power, it, you know, it illuminates. And then whenever I'm like slowing down, it's kind of recycling that. And then it does other stuff whenever it's driving. It makes it, honestly, with this design though, and I know this sounds silly, but like, because these things look like wings, this looks like a pad to me, like a feminine hygiene product, and these are the wings and they're supposed to go underneath it. So I feel like some redesigning should be in place for that, because this, when I first got in here, I'm like, are you trying to say that you're like, you know, flying away? Or like, it just reminds me of a female hygiene product. I have spent 20 minutes trying to find a charger because I received this car at 80% and I'm going to have to be returning it at whatever it's at, because I have not been able to find a charger, even though on this little map over here, like if you go through the settings, you can search it and they have, and again, I'm super not into this tech. Oh yeah, we're on our way to the airport. But if you go through the settings, you can end up looking for charging stations. So I have tried to find 3 different charging stations in this area. I have not had any success because even though they were listed as charging stations, I couldn't find where I was supposed to be charging to. So the vehicle brought me to each destination. Each destination did not have a charger. So that's really frustrating. And then even still, there's supposed to be one right there, because that is something that I do like with the tech, is that like supposedly there's a charging station right there. But the practice of trying to find that charging station, a lot of these charging stations, at least in this area, because right now I'm currently in San Francisco, I would have to go into a parking garage and then try to find it. So I think that that's kind of like, I don't know how they have it set up, and honestly I didn't have the time to kill for it. But it's very frustrating to not just be able to pull up and charge. And then I don't even know, like I would have done a video, and I was planning on doing a video on that charging experience, because the Chevy Volt Guides, Daniel from Rochester, New York, he said that there was an app, and then the couple told me that like if I went to Whole Foods, that was one of the locations that I tried to do, but again, it brought me to a parking garage where I'd have to pay to get in, and then I probably had to pay, of course, to charge as well. So even in the grand state of California, that really wants to push out all the electric stuff, it's not really user friendly. And then the thing that I super didn't appreciate, and like, I don't care if you guys pick on me about this, because like you want to say that I'm a redneck or whatever. I'm really not a redneck, but I have rednecks in my family. It's really frustrating because my personal experience was keys were already in it, tried to argue my way out of it with the lady, language barrier. I kept being told free upgrade. I said I don't want the free upgrade, I want the regular car, which is really funny because like I've worked at a rental car place, and and so to be on the opposite end, I'm just like, I don't want this thing. And then out the gate, like at the booth where the paperwork happens, I tried to do the same thing, because she's like, oh, it's the guy in the booth. I'm like, okay. And he's like, I'm like, what do I do with this car? He's like, I don't know, you got to Google it or YouTube it. I'm just like, you gotta be kidding me. So it's been a very annoying venture. So rental car companies, if you are electively giving people 100% electric vehicle or even a hybrid vehicle, do your customer base a service and make a little brochure about the, you know, the different things that like they may want to not have to try to figure out along the way, because like if you're a customer based business, which everyone is, you really don't want to put your consumer base in an uncomfortable situation. Like, I wanted to do so much more during this trip, but because of the anxiety of this car, and okay, I know I have free charging at the hotel, but I really have to get there at an appropriate time, because now I'm battling out with other people, even though like I've met them, like, because I had to meet each person, and we had to come up with this plan of like, if my vehicle's charged, if your vehicle's charged, whatever, is it socially appropriate or socially accepted to unplug you and then like park very close to you to be able to plug in? And we all came to the agreement that that would be fine. We ended up timing out our stuff where we didn't have to get to that point, but like that's where we're still at with this whole situation. But like, I wanted to go and see the redwoods. I wanted to go here and there, because I was thinking when I planned my trip that I would go to gas stations and charge. The charging thing is also very frustrating, because I received the car at 80%. And this video is a super long video, but I mean, I only have so much time that I'm going to be in this car because I'm flying out. So received the car at 80%, and then had to drive about an hour and a half away. That dropped the vehicle down to, I think, 40-ish%. And it might have been less than that. I know I was very anxious about, oh my goodness, I hope the hotel has a charger, because when I went to Wyoming, they had chargers. I don't know if I had to pay for it. I don't know if it's complimentary, blah, 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 blah. And I have my daughter and my mom with me, and like, so we're hurrying up to get to the hotel to hurry up and charge the vehicle. And luckily they had it available, but then we had to figure out like this whole handicap van parking and all this other stuff, which, you know, good and bad on the hotel. I don't like feeling like I'm breaking the law in order to maintain some level of fuel or charge to a vehicle. So that, I didn't like that. So, you know, that's one of those things where it's like, Hilton Hotels, thank you so much for having this available, but can we like do something where your guests don't feel so awkward about it? Because like, it is awkward. Because never would I just be parking in a handicap parking space. It just makes me feel bad. So all over the place with this video. But because I basically equated it to 20 minutes to half an hour of driving, decreased the battery by about 20 to 30%. That was anxiety building, and so it's like we had to reschedule all of the stuff that we wanted to do and base it off of, we'll go here and then we'll go back to the hotel and charge. After we're done with this, we'll go back to the hotel and charge, because whatever the percentage it was at when we arrived at the hotel, and I feel like it was like 40-ish%, maybe more than that, but again, I don't remember because I was very tired by the end of it. When I plugged it in, which I had to just figure out, and I wish I would have done a video on, and I was going to do a video on, which isn't like with the free chargers. I had to figure out how to get it out of the thing, because it has a little lever and it gets stuck. So once I figured that out, and once I realized that I had to really push hard to get the, you know, normally the gas door to pop up, I just plugged it in. So that wasn't too difficult. But it took 8 hours to charge. So I plugged it in, and the car talks to you, and it says charging on, and then it illuminates, and then the screen says 8 hours to charge. And I was like, you gotta be kidding me. So it takes a while to charge, and I do cognitively understand that there's fast chargers and stuff like that available, but it's exceptionally annoying and frustrating, anxiety building, and like, having gone through this experience with this car, I would be okay with being in a hybrid. And I can totally, you know, truck people, don't get mad at me, large SUV people, you know, red-blooded American, you know, V8, da-da-da people. I can get behind, even though I've had to drive a hybrid, because someone I know has a Chevy Equinox, and being a big Chevy girl, like, you know, that's cool. It's very unnerving that it turns off all the time, like when you're at a stoplight or an intersection. And you know, you kind of get used to that, and I understand. I worry about like the starter, and I worry about certain things with the vehicle, but I mean, they'd have to redesign it to make it more functional in that manner. But you always have the flexible ability of charging. I assume, I don't know anything about the charging of that particular vehicle, but you go to the gas station and you can fill up with gas, and then like when you're braking, it's recycling that, you know, energy that would otherwise be lost, and it's recharging stuff. So I think that that's a fantastic concept, because, you know, environmental stuff, and, you know, verbal cookies for all of that, and, you know, it just, but this has been kind of and the other thing, because I do have a level of anxiety about driving on top of batteries, and I know that's kind of hypocritical because like I literally drive around with a tank full of combustible liquid, and, you know, especially with the carbureted vehicles, like, you know, gas fires, all that good stuff. The car reminds you. I don't know when the car reminds you, because I think it's on the map right now, but like it'll show the car and then it'll show the batteries that you're riding on top of. I'm gonna see if I can get it to do it. Let's see, EV. And this screen is obnoxiously large, and I feel like it's just such a big visual distraction. So currently we're at 59%, but like, look, it just makes it feel like I'm driving on top of a bunch of batteries, and it's kind of unnerving. So now we're at 59%. So it's just a lot of little frustrating things with this car. Oh, I didn't even know. Okay, I just found out that the seats can have warmers. Man, I would have been doing this the whole time. Let's see, let's turn them on. Ooh. One of the features that I do also like is that I feel like it's so sad. I feel like it's so sad that they have to do it, but when I turn the vehicle off, it tells me how many passengers are in the car, and then there's a big flashing circle that says check the back seat. My daughter's 11, so if I left her in the back seat, she'd be like, "Mommy!" or she'd get out because she's 11. But unfortunately in my lifetime, I have read things and seen things about children being left in cars, and I don't care how busy you are, like, I just really, that bothers me, because I have had 3 children, and in every stage of them being a little baby, which I call like their larva stage, when they're in the carrier car seats, or when they turn into a toddler and they're in like the toddler seats, I have never forgotten that I have a child with me, because they are so important to me. And I don't understand how you can get that busy to forget your child. But I mean, I just haven't personally experienced that. And so I do like that it is a reminder. For me, every time I saw that as a reminder, I thought of every child that was lost, or lost their life, that I've personally, you know, known or read about. And so it's almost like a remembrance or a memorial for those lives lost, either from parents being too busy, or in some of those really unfortunate situations, parents that were so malicious that they wanted to do other things. Like one dad I read about, like, concocted doing the whole thing, and I know this video is all over the place, but, you know, he purposely left his child in the car so that it'd be easier to get out of the relationship that he was in, because he had a girlfriend that he wanted to go to. That's what I had read, and I feel like that is horrific. But every time that it showed that, I consciously was thinking about that. So this probably wouldn't be a good vehicle for a parent that did, unfortunately, you know, they were too busy or whatever, and they forgot that their child was in the back seat and they lost their child. But I don't think that they would need a reminder from a car. I think that that's a weight that they would carry with them for the rest of their life. So that was something that was appreciated, and also just a remembrance. And sometimes we do need those remembrances, as a culture and a society, that like we should be looking in cars when we're walking out, you know, if we park and we go to Walmart. And that's something that as a mother I do. I scan cars, not because I'm nosy, not because I want to see what's going on, but because in my mind, it's like, I have no problem busting a window if I need to. If I'm ever put in the situation where I see a child in a vehicle, that's what's going to happen. Law enforcement will be called, and like I will bust a window, and I don't care if I go to jail or not. So, random segue, but that was something that every time it happened, it was there. I do like the little light things. Like, let's switch gears. So I have them on. I like that, like, I can't touch anything over here, so there is a very particular sensor right here, and I think there's like some type of like dot, like there's this dot, so I think that would be for visually challenged people, so you can feel that it's there, so I like that. But then I always think, like, as a visually challenged person driving the car, but I mean a visually challenged person could be a passenger in the car, and so it's just that kind of like inclusion that I super appreciate, because you know, some people get grumpy about inclusion, but other people are just like, everybody needs inclusion. It's like, we really should make steps as a society to try to include people. We should. I don't really, let's see, this one is in the event that like the door is open, it'll turn the light on or off. I like that it's just like right there in your face. This would just turn everything on for the cabin. Like if I had both of these turned off, I could just push this and then it illuminates everything. So there are a lot of things that are still very basic car features, but then there was a lot of redesigning. I did not do anything with any of this. I didn't. And I haven't even heard the car honk yet. There's a little baby horn. So I don't know what any of these features have. The steering wheel is also, it's upside down. When I go to drive this, it's going to be weird. This is kind of cool. It's like flat. I don't know. I'm okay with it. I'm used to like just a complete circle, but I don't have a problem when people redesign a steering wheel, because there have been different vehicles that have had redesigns. It makes you feel kind of like, I feel like this, I know this is supposed to be like a race car feeling thing. I feel like for someone that has arthritis or something like that, that this would be really nice to hold on to. I'm a huge fan of that. Turn signals are very traditional with, you know, we didn't have a lot of redesigning here, so, you know, this way, that way. The sound of the using the blinkers is not obnoxious. I have not had my blinker on long enough to know if it like beeps at me, but I think the sound is loud enough where, you know, it's letting you know that it's being used. The windshield wipers are similar to some of the other vehicles that I've driven. Still the same thing with like the brights and stuff like that. The gear shifter honestly is the most annoying thing. I'm not a fan. I don't like it that much. And then of course the ginormous screens. I'm leaving this light on as a tester to see if it will eventually beep at me, because it beeps about so many things. And I like the functionality of this stuff, but it's so, like, when you're driving, it does so many different things. The navigation system is really, really lacking. Something that I'm sure there's a setting to turn it off, but something that is incredibly annoying, but also, like, I think it was designed to be annoying so that you wouldn't, you know, get lost or take the wrong turn, is that if you have the music up within 2 miles, you're going to be doing something, or there's any like light guidance to come over or do this or merge, it takes it from surround sound to music in your center console, which is very weird. And I did do a couple of driving videos while I was here, so that's going to play out in the sound with the camera and everything. So that was weird. I understand why it's there, but it's very obnoxious. But then when you design your platform for your navigation to be obnoxious, and just, I don't know, it just kind of makes sense. But yeah, I mean, and again, I don't know what drive mode does. We'll go through this together. Oh, I thought it might be that the car would drive yourself. So we could have it in eco mode, normal mode or sport mode. And look, those wings change. So like, does this mean that, so normal mode, we get like feminine products, and, or this is eco mode, feminine products. And that kind of looks like a pool, maybe. I don't know. That's more stealthy. And then sport mode. Oh, and it has the red for me. It's like, look. But yeah, I haven't done much. I haven't done all the stuff that I wanted to do because of the anxiety with the car. So it's kind of frustrating. The other thing that's really frustrating is this system while you're trying to drive. Like, you have to hold it down or do whatever. And this is the default. And like, if you push it, it doesn't do all the, oh, it does, I guess. Over here, it kind of shows you. But this was kind of cumbersome to deal with because I like buttons. I like certain things to be normal, or like my version of normal. So my mom and I were kind of having issues with that. I do super appreciate that it's climate controlled on both sides. And to bring us back to the blinker, it does not alert because we've had it on for a while and it just continues to blink. Not really sure what other information you guys would want to know. I mean, the charging stuff's annoying, but it wasn't too terrible to figure out. I mean, it was just like basic mechanics of stuff. Oh, so I've been driving in eco mode because I just found out about what I was driving it in. And as a person that drives a V8 5.7 Hemi, car's got some pep to it in its step. Eats on the battery though, with the peppiness. I wouldn't write home about it. It's not fantastic. It is super, super, super weird to not hear the car going. I'm going to throw that out there. I read something at one point that either they were talking about or they did put an auditory factor into the vehicle so that people would like hear something even though you don't hear anything. This car is so quiet, it's weird. Like, this car is technically on right now. But I can like full throttle the gas, which I didn't do very much because I'm a very nice driver. And car doesn't vroom, and I want a vroom. I want to hear vroom vroom. I don't care if it's an artificial vroom vroom. Throw people, maybe that can be part of like your setting style of like, you know, if they have driving mode that I wasn't aware of, and you have eco and you have this and you have that, maybe like if you move, maybe like when we select through our thing where we have, you know, normal versus eco versus sport, which I guess I am going to drive it in sport mode just to see what it's like. So it's like, okay, well, we can click through here, but then maybe we can turn it and it'll have, you know, like new driver versus seasoned driver versus intermediate, and you can just kind of like click through, and it's like, okay, grandma or grandpa is driving it, and grandpa is totally used to, you know, his 2500 turbo diesel. So he's not going to want to hear all the yappy crap with the car. He's going to get very irritated and want to drive the car into like a tree. So let's have a, you know, seasoned driver mode where every time he puts his foot on the gas is and like he hears it and he's like, oh yeah, that reminds me of my truck, that makes me feel so good because like I like my turbo diesel blah 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 6.2. okay, and then we have like, you know, someone that has been in a couple car accidents, and so maybe they've had some anxiety, but like even though they're a seasoned driver, they've got a little PTSD for automobiles, so they get a yellow light that shows that like, hey, you have a car coming up behind you, like there you go, and like maybe some of the sounds are a little bit less, and you know, just a couple little tweaks, so you know, she can go into, you know, eco mode because she's not going to full throttle the car, but she wants to know a little bit about what's going on because she has a little anxiety too. Oh my goodness, 18-year-old teenager, just got her license, maybe. And so every single thing, because she's used to like phones and technology and being distracted, so now the car needs to distract her and say, hey, you got somebody on your left side, don't go over there. Hey, you have somebody on your right side, don't go over there. And like, let's coordinate it to like, if you change lanes and you don't have your blinker on, let's beep, 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 beep. And it's like, we have a big flashy yellow thing that says, hey, teenager, you need to remember how to use these turn signals because they exist for a reason so the other people around you know what to do. And then the teenager's just like, man, this car's too smart. Hey, technology. That would be fantastic. Can we do that? Can we make it where like we get the teenagers grumpy about the technology and then there's like a turn off technology button for Poppy and then like, or like the grandfather, and you know, every time you hit that accelerator, rah, 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 like, even if he just hears it and nobody around him hears it, that would be fantastic. Like, I don't know, can we make those features? Because like, again, if we're going to have inclusion for, you know, a visually impaired person in the car by adding this little dot, like that little dot doesn't really take much to add to have visually impaired people be comfy with this car and know what's going on. And actually, now that I'm looking, we don't have any other dots, so it's kind of annoying, but I guess with like feeling stuff, the spaces, and then, you know, auditory changes, and we just group it into a couple different things. And like, then of course, you know, if you actually have this as your vehicle, then you can make it where, you know, you label the things. But can we do that? Does that exist? And then like, you know, just I don't know, it just makes sense. Like, make the vehicle sound a certain way, make the vehicle do certain things, and that way you're including people. Because when people think of inclusion, and I know this video is like all over the place, but I think that when people think of inclusion, we're thinking of, you know, certain populace with, you know, visual disabilities, auditory ones. We're not really thinking about the sensory aspect of it. We're not really thinking about neurospicy people with everything. And I know that like just the driving experience overall for a neurospicy person, like the auditory, the visual, the this, the that, there's a lot of stuff going on. But can we also like try to include, with inclusion, the populace that is aging and is used to the roll-up windows, and they've been forced into the progression of the technology, and you know, maybe that's why they want to drive that turbo diesel that they don't have to put DEF in, because like, you know, as much as they would like to, because they care about the environment, clearly, because they like to grow plants and they like natural homeopathic things, and they don't realize that now the stuff that they've always really felt more comfortable with is kind of trending, but they're not having that inclusion. So then you breed that hostility of, I don't want that new fancy stuff. Like, even though I make jokes about the fact that like my Ram 5.7 liter, you know, bratty pickup truck, my Dodge Hemi, and not a Ram truck, like that's the generational thing for me, is it's not a Ram. I mean, it's a Dodge Ram, but it's a Dodge Ram. It's not just like a Ram. I feel like it is supposed that I am supposed to be more excited and compliant about technology, whereas I kind of see both sides of that, where I understand where grandpa's coming from, and then I understand where the teenager's coming from, and so I feel like we're really breeding a little bit of hostility by not including people that, you know, have so much common sense and so much mechanical know-how, but that they're really not tech savvy. And even when they try to be tech savvy, they have an 11-year-old that is their granddaughter that is like, well, why don't you know that? Because they grew up with a phone in their hand, whereas, you know, grandpa remembers rotary phones. So yeah, that's just my tidbits on it. So I don't know if I would want to do like a 10 out of 10 recommend, or like a little rating scale. If I have to, no one's asking, it's just me talking to a phone. If I had to rate my experience, let's just put it into like the rental car experience. If I had to rate the rental car experience of ease of consumer base and what happened, and this is Avis, I'm looking at you because that's who we rented from, as a preferred whatever thing, because husband cat has like preferred stuff and points and all these little fanciful things that I really don't care about. Preferred Avis customer, you guys failed. You guys failed miserably at this rental car experience. The car was not properly cleaned. The windshield was really smeary. That was like a very annoying thing. I understand airport locations have a lot more airports have a lot more people that frequent, so like, but you guys are supposed to be a higher quality of standard, especially with cleanliness and stuff like that, because if you can't properly clean the windshield for the car, are you going to be properly sanitizing this vehicle? I luckily, you know, because this is post-COVID climate, I luckily did bring in some of the Lysol with me, and I Lysol the car and wiped it down and everything like that. But just like getting the car, the windshield was gross. The exterior of the car was fine. The interior, as far as like the carpets and everything, were fine. They weren't perfect by any means, but I wasn't expecting I wasn't expecting things to be perfect, because I don't know their quality standards for their consumer base. I am familiar with another rental cars one, because like I used to work there. So as a Avis preferred person dealing with language barrier, not wanting this vehicle, going to 2 different associates, not getting any guidance with the vehicle, and being rushed out, and basically being told I should be happy because like they gave me something better than what we were requested. I'm gonna give you a 2. That's what I'm gonna give you, because like if I had to, which I probably will have to, because husband cat, I don't know who he has points with and who he has this with and preferred status or whatever crap that I really don't care about. And he did coordinate this trip, because like that's his, you know, that's his wheel horse. He travels far more often than I do. So if I have to, because husband cat books me up for you guys again, I will see you again. Otherwise, I don't want to see you again, because like your airport location was just crap. Hyundai as a manufacturer, because I think this, I mean, outside of when I worked at the rental car place driving different vehicles, Hyundai, I'm gonna give you a 6, because it's over the, I think you really did too much with the huge screens. I think you really did a little too much over engineering with tech stuff to make it where you're going to breed anxiety with your drivers. But I also understand that, you know, smaller, not smaller because Hyundai's not small, but lower end trying to become more prevalent, which I don't think you really need that much work right now, because Hyundai and Kias are going all over the place, because they're trying to, they're keeping up. They're trying to become a bigger, bolder, like you can stand behind our cars thing, because like I've heard the joke from multiple people in multiple different areas that like at one point in time it was either Hyundai or Kia that you could buy one car and get one free. So I think you guys are really trying to like get away from that and keep up with like the Tesla cats and stuff like that. But I don't think the Tesla cats are completely on par with all of the thought process they have. And then just from looking at the exterior, because I haven't been in a Tesla cat, they have a huge monitor, I think, in the center. I don't know what they have going on for the other stuff, but like, again, I feel like we should be able to just have it where there's a preset thing where like you're looking at gauges. And then if you don't want this monstrous screen on the side, then you don't have to deal with it. So I'm giving you a 6 out of 10, because like if you put all these factors in the designing and the thought process with the car, there's still significant room for improvement. But I feel like being in a Hyundai, it's not as apparent. It didn't feel cheap. It like this, the seats feel solid. Again, I didn't know about the heated seats thing. I would have been using that a long time ago. If there was a button, I would have known, because a few of my vehicles have heated seats, and like I just didn't know it was there. So yeah, the handles are annoying, but that's like you guys trying to be like the Tesla cats. So I mean, that's just, I guess that's just what it is. I get to deal with that. The sound system was pretty decent, so I gotta like say that the peppiness of the car, even in eco mode, I was pretty impressed, and that's coming from a V8 Hemi driver. like, you guys have me so messed up with this car, and it's not you guys, but like Hyundai and Avis and everything, that like, that was a Ford F-250 that just went by, and I am not a Ford person, but I was like, man, I'd like totally take that truck instead of what I'm driving. So don't make me envious and sad about not being a gas guzzler when, there's a reason I have multiple cars, because if I need to do a bunch of heavy stuff, I'll drive the Ram. If I need to just be going around town and parking garage and stuff like that, I'm taking the 200 somewhere because it's like zippy. And then if I have work to do, but I need to be like commuting long distances, then I use a Trailblazer, because I can literally put a full-size door in there or a ladder or whatever. And the Trailblazers get pretty decent gas mileage for the size of them and for how old they are. So, 6 out of 10. I'm gonna give it a 6 out of 10. And then just the overall experience of being in a full electric car, going from a gas perspective, being in California where this is supposed to be a big thing, not being able to find charging stations, feeling completely inconvenienced by the whole experience. The fact that in the beginning of this video, like when we first started, before you guys started seeing stuff, I feel like it was at 62 or 60%, just in the 50 minutes that we've been sitting here, not doing anything except for talking about the car, and we are 50 minutes in, and you guys, you'll be able to go back to the beginning of the video. We're at 58%. So there's been a drop down in the battery with it being in driving mode. We're not driving. We have the lights on right here. We're just sitting here. We're literally just sitting here with the heated seat on, and that's pretty much all the car has going on. And we've dropped down that much. So let's put that conversion rate into driving, and then the anxiety of, will we find a charging station? And that's why I'm going to say that as of this moment, if I was forced into getting another vehicle, I absolutely would not get a completely electric vehicle. I don't think and even in California, I don't feel like the infrastructure is here all the way. I would rather do a hybrid. And I know that like the Tesla Cat model is all about the all electric stuff, but maybe some of the Tesla Cats, maybe you might want to do a couple little hybrids there, and like take some, I want to say all American like rednecks and throw them in a Tesla and see what they're gonna say, because you guys are doing the Tesla Cat truck thing, which is so weird looking, just so you know. I don't know. But like, pull people that would never in 100 years want to be in this vehicle or your vehicle, and get their honest opinions, because they're just gonna be like, stupid, blah, 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 blah. But they're also gonna have some solid feedback, because like, I never thought, and ironically, I was in a discussion about this kind of car with my dad on the way to the airport, and how I'd be so grumpy about it because I don't like it, because like I don't like things that like I can't just turn off. Like there's a whole thing for me, like a master kill switch, and like just like you got to think about, you always think outside the box, because like what are those movies? Those Final Destination movie or something, I don't know, where like the scary stuff happens, because I'm not a pop culture person, and like so many people are going to poke me for this video, because especially since it's long. But yeah, so I worry about things that I shouldn't worry about, because growing up we saw movies that had things that were weird in them, and so like I get anxieties or thought processes and intrusive thoughts on like, is that log gonna like fly into my car? I'm staying away from that stupid thing because I saw the movie and I didn't like how it ended, and blah 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 blah. And then like when that happens in real life, of course the other people that grew up seeing that stuff, they make videos about it, and they're like, we would never be behind that thing because we would think this and this and this and this and this. It's the same thing. So like, get someone that doesn't want to be in this vehicle, put them in the vehicle and see what happens, because I feel like I've been a guinea pig and it's not been fun, but I've like acclimated But I can give a better opinion than somebody that like idolizes this concept, because it's like, no, you want to pull in and you don't want to just deal with the people that are crunchy and want just the electric cars. And I don't mean crunchy as like a negative thing. I just say crunchy because like they're super eco everything. And like I try to be pretty eco-ish on things, but nobody could like say that I'm a super crunchy person. You know, it's kind of like one of those things where like people say that, you know, redneck is an insult, but then rednecks are like, it's not an insult, or like there's pull a thing. There's a lot of things that people say is derogatory. So I don't say crunchy is derogatory. I say it as a generalized piece of like this person hyper focuses and hyper cares about this particular area. And if you get offended by the name, I'm sorry. I don't have a better name to call you that doesn't either idolize you for your stuff, because like some of your stuff is a little you guys went all over the place instead of just going with like something that's like just makes more sense. And I know I'm rambling. I'm tired and I've been forced into this car. But yeah, pull people that would never want to be in this car, and they'll give you better feedback, and they will give you better ideas to make it where it is more inclusive. Because unless you can start trying to teach and comfortably get people that would never want to be in this car, unless you can properly acclimate them by the way of inclusion, then like we're just gonna have like we're gonna have like gas people versus electric people. I don't know. I've been seeing the memes where it's no longer Dodge against Ford versus Chevy versus, you know, GMC versus Toyota Tundras and all this other stuff. It's like the gas vehicles, or the, let's say the fossil fuel vehicles, against the electric stuff. And all that does is breed hostility, because you see the people like accusing other people of like rolling coal, and then you do see the people that roll coal on other vehicles, and like that kind of stuff is not nice. Like I don't drive a diesel, but if I did, I wouldn't roll coal on someone if I had that capability. Because we're all people. It doesn't matter what this crunchy exterior says, whether it's electric, hybrid, gas, or diesel. We're all people out here, and so just don't find ways to be grumpy to people. Everything would be a lot better if everyone would learn to like try to talk to people in a nice way, instead of just doing jerky stuff. But sometimes if you try to be nice about stuff, then you got people blowing up at you enough, like you're like, all right, nice didn't work, so now I gotta use my big scary grumpy voice, and I'm just gonna get further into whatever my stereotype is, because now you guys have not accepted me. And it's like, it's high school. It's high school all over again, and we're not children, we're adults. So 6 out of 10 for the car, we'll say that. Do not feel free to throw me in other vehicles if you see this video. Don't just be like, hey Michelle, fix it, we've got this whatever thing, and like we want you to like come in here and like we're gonna make you drive this stupid little itty bitty thing that has like no power and blah 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 blah. I really don't want to do that. This is just a random video of like, man, this was not a fun experience, but I acclimated and I was okay with it ish. I would never want to purposely put myself in this situation ever again. Hybrid maybe, because then I have a backup plan. There's no backup plan. This car is at 58%, and I don't even know how much the rental car company is going to charge me to charge this stupid thing back up again. But I mean, they tried, and you know, it works. But you guys like and subscribe. Have a fantastic day. I will see you next time.